Welcome to the second part of two webinars that I've been hosting on our SAP Network Plus platform. The first one on integration, and then this one will tie in quite nicely around the data management side of things. As Kirit did with a few hat tips to Floyd, I'm sure Floyd will do the same. For those who weren't on the last webinar, I am Liam Halliwell. I'm one of the senior SAP specialist consultants at Blue Wave Select. For those who don't know, we are the highest rated recruitment agency in Europe when it comes to all things SAP, and we're co-creators of SAP Network Plus. We have a 99.9% Trustpilot review rating, and if you'd like to find more information about Blue Wave Select, I think Lisa has just posted a link now. Today we'll be joined by Floyd Sapanya. So Floyd has over 20 years experience in the data management side of things, with a specialist focus on all things SAP. Floyd's expertise is to come into businesses as a contractor and help them monetize and prioritize their data as a key element of a successful transformation program. We have the chat open for questions. I see a lot of you already engaging, so please feel free to post your questions and we'll come back to your answers directly within 48 hours of the webinar finishing. And as we did with Kirit's webinar, we are also offering free advisory sessions with Floyd. So Lisa will post a form where you can just fill in your details, takes 2 seconds, and we can come back to you to arrange some time. If of course you want to discuss with Floyd more about how to get the most out of your data. So welcome, Floyd. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Hi, everybody. I'm looking forward to this session here, where we can exchange ideas and hopefully catch up later as part of the advisory sessions that I'll be more than happy to engage with.
Yeah, fantastic. So we've got 5 key points to go through, some kind of divide into sub points, and we'll have some discussion around them. Hopefully it's really useful for SAP leaders, data experts, and interested parties alike. So Floyd, should we kick off with the first point? How do you want to begin?
Yeah, thanks, Liam. What I wanted to say to the 5 key points that we've mentioned, we're going to be touching upon them in a very dynamic manner. It's not going to be a sequential way that we're going to be touching through the points. But the main thing that we want to address here is to say, for business leaders, for SAP leaders, how can we start to alleviate the pain and the confusion that they have, and also our colleagues within the business? They would know exactly what their jobs are, but when it comes to data, they wouldn't be so clear as to what their role needs to be. All I know is if you consume data, you only care about the relevancy of it as far as your job is concerned. So that's that element, making sure that our data is relevant as a day-to-day type of operational thing. But where I want to talk about and have more focus on is from extracting value as a end-to-end business. How can we start to look data in a way that supports the strategic values of the business? Therefore, we need to be understanding as SAP leaders and everyone within the organization, what are the key medium-term strategic goals that the whole enterprise is wanting to achieve? What are the long-term ones that the organization is wanting to achieve? What's our mission statement as far as a business is concerned? And then the idea would then be to say, you have an enterprise, which is a very wide organization with different functional areas within it. Then to our business leaders, if you see what I'm talking, I'm not talking about data, I'm talking about business here, to say, what are my key priorities within the overall business strategy that I would like to contribute to the success of the organization? Based on what you know as a leader, we then need to be starting to say, how is data going to help me achieve those goals? Therefore, we start talking about specific use cases of how we're going to need data to support those specific use cases for the data then to be used, understood, measured, and consumed in a way that's appropriate to drive those key goals. Liam.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's a fantastic first point, because I think historically data has been in heavily customized SAP systems, and has been manipulated. It's been quite a technical role, a lot of data migration roles, but obviously we're not here to talk about that today. We're talking about a progressive approach to data management, data governance, ensuring that there is established business requirements that lead the data work stream in the same way that they should lead the technical work stream. It's not technology or data for technology or data's sake. It's all around the strategic ambitions of the business, and ultimately, achieving those goals and driving more return of investment from the business, because this is not a small investment. We appreciate that, but it's a worthwhile one. I'm sure you'd argue, Floyd.
Absolutely, and to that point, then that's where the use cases, if they're understood, they need to be prioritized. In an organization, you would know that there's many different things that everyone wants to be doing. Therefore, to make sure that we prioritize data accordingly, there has to be and to measure the impact of what that data would do, is working towards the priority of the use cases themselves. I'm going to talk about a data product, right? What data products want to facilitate and impact on the use cases that the business are wanting to achieve, is to say, we have one single source of truth as far as a customer 360 review or view of our customer, our suppliers. We have one source of truth. But within that data product or data domain, you would have 1,000 fields at least, and I'm not exaggerating. You have a material master, for example. There are so many fields in there. For success to be achieved in a meaningful way that impacts what the business needs, is then to say, what are the common attributes for the different use cases that each business function would be having? You then start thinking about a data product, where you then prioritize the attributes that are going to be supporting multiple use cases. Therefore, you can see immediately that you start thinking about the value add of your data, because that data or the set of attributes that you want to focus on as a data product are directly aligned to your use cases that are high impacting within the business. The key thing about the data products is we're working in an exciting world where you should be able to simulate real business scenarios based on the use cases that you have. If you have your data products that are fit for purpose, i.e. they are aligned to the use cases that are aligned to business strategy, you are able to create in a sandbox environment, your data products, and start playing around with them to say, if I change this attribute within this data product, what is the ripple effect within the whole user case set, to see the actual impact of what your data does. Therefore, data products are very key as far as making sure that there's value that the business get from the data itself.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, no, it's really important, isn't it? It's not just coming in to look after a phase of the program. This is looking at a program from the very beginning, with all of the initial proof of concept and the initial assessment of the scope of work needed and what the business wants to get out. This isn't coming in the middle. This is coming in right at the very beginning. And it's very much a lot of the approach you have will very much tie in with a greenfield approach to an implementation as well, I imagine.
Yeah, our is greenfield approach, but the data should be agnostic to what method of a migration or strategy you are adopting when you move to S4HANA. Could be brownfield, could be greenfield, it could be hybrid, could be bluefield, whatever it is that you call it. As long as from a business value perspective, you are clear on what your use cases are. What the differences will be in terms of greenfield, brownfield, etc. You are going to start to look at your sources of data that you have to be doing anyway. Understanding your data sources. Because one of the key things about data products is you want to avoid duplication, which is a key dimension for data quality. You want to assess what your data sources currently have as far as the data products, data elements that are going to make your data products. Therefore, understanding your data sources in the context of a greenfield implementation or brownfield or hybrid is very important. The same thing, this is what I want to make a point here, the value of your data still, regardless of your methodology that you're going to be using to move to S4HANA, needs to be tied to your business cases, use cases accordingly. But yes, your approach, which is a different subject on its own, to say, how then do you go about, source data discovery? The key thing that I want to make sure about source data discovery, you want to make sure that you reuse what you have. And you are clear that there's duplication, so that you can also go outside externally to then get all the other data elements that would then enhance your data product that will then be suitable for consumption. And then there's very different consumption types, Liam. There's the day-to-day operations where applications need your data. I've mentioned the sandbox discovery is one way of consuming your data. There's analytics, where you want to see how you stand as far as the business is concerned. There's reporting, which could be internal reporting, but it's also external reporting. External reporting where it's regulatory, legal, etc. So having a clear set of what your use cases are, how your data products are gonna be consumed. We then go to address one of how exciting it would be when businesses are very clear on what data comes their way. For me and I know a lot of leaders here on the call would know this, it will start to address the issue that we have around data ownership. If I see as a business person that this data product is really clear on what I'm gonna get from it, if I change parameters within data products, I can clearly see what the impact is on my deliverables and strategic goals. I think we'll go to a point where there will be competition for data ownership of those products, because people will then start seeing a real value from what the data is bringing. So that for me is data ownership issue would be eliminated if we start thinking data product, if we start thinking data quality, if we start thinking alignment of data to use cases and strategic goals.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's at the moment, I think a lot of the issues when it comes to data quality in businesses, like you say, comes down to ownership, not having governance in place. And like you say, if you put these data products in place, then that's going to just eradicate the need for that altogether. It's going to make it a lot easier for businesses to manage, because as I said, with curative integration, same with data, it's an ongoing process, isn't it? It's not just do your transformation program and you're done and everything's in place. There's an ongoing journey with data, isn't there?
Absolutely, and it's an ongoing thing. You would have established your data sets or data products, you would have a proven in an iterative way that they address what the business needs, which if you look at what's there as far as AI models are concerned, there's thousands and thousands of developed AI models that are just in a proof of concept stage. What experts and other people that are looking from the value of AI will tell you is these things, they do work technically. The key thing is they haven't been moved to production. And one of the reasons they have not been moved to production environment is not only things that rightfully need to be looked at, like are they ethically sound? Do they adhere to data privacy? The main thing where we have AI models that are still in a development stage is because people haven't identified real use cases where they can then start to see the value of those AI models. That's why always for data, you need to be thinking use case, what's the priority of use case in the value chain as far as strategic business goals are concerned.
Yeah, and then once you have your use case, it's then much easier for you to identify a product that's been developed so that's going to be most suitable for your business to help you manage the data. Quite an interesting point you mentioned there around the ethical side of things. Obviously, AI has the capability to do more than we can as mere mortals. So with AI, there's obviously a lot to be considered with ethics. I mean, it's all over the news. Everything to do with AI is in many ways exciting, but in many ways a worry for a lot of businesses. So the ethical side of things, I don't know if you can tell us more about that, the importance of it.
Yeah,
really
and this is where data is very key as far as the adoption of AI in a production sense. There's many developmental models that are there and they work technically. If we take one step back to understand how AI models are trained, AI models are usually, in most cases, trained on publicly available data sets. Where the thing is going now is to start bringing your business context into what the AI models have been trained upon. What is that business context? That business context is your data. Your data in the form of the data products that you want to use, the use cases that you want to use that data for, right? There's this retrieval augmentation that would help AI to provide that context. Key to that is organizations having their own data that will then help the AI models to be sound and being controlled in a manner that will be applicable to a specific organization. So data is crucial for AI adoption and making sure that it's done in an ethical and controlled way. Ethical, you can only be ethical if you understand what your data is. You can only be ethical if you understand what your data can tell you by looking at it. If you have data that's consistent, if you have your data that's clean, you are able to mitigate those dangers around ethics and data privacy because you have sound data sets that everyone understands, that everyone can trust.
Yeah, it's so valuable, isn't it, to have that data properly managed, and then, like you say, it's going to run the risk of any sort of reputational damage to the business or any issues they may run into mismanaging people's information, especially when it impacts an individual. It is massive, especially for a company's reputation. And then, like you say, and how it can be then applied to AI is the big topic. But it's still very much early stages, isn't there? There's lots to watch out for on the AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at there's many frameworks that helps with your data management and assessing their maturity. What most of them will tell you really is is what's called an enterprise structure view of how you look at your data. So if you have your enterprise consisting of business architecture, which is your processes and use cases. If you have your data architecture, which are your pipelines as to where your data is coming from, how you're gonna make sure that it gets where it needs to get to, how you wanna make sure that there's visibility, there's clarity of what that data is. And then you have the technology. So those three things, your business architecture, your data architecture, your technology architecture, is imperative that those three always, you mentioned continuously before, always continue to assess where they are with the sole aim to be supporting business goals. So working in silos, those three just problems, because you then have data that people don't understand and they're not interested in it because it's not making any sense to them. It's not making any difference, either operationally, but in a strategical sense. So you can't have shiny tools and pay for them, huge amounts of money in some cases, when actually they are not helping your organization. So that's changing. We've seen it recently, where there's always that interaction, and long may it continue, between technology, between data, and between a business. It also helps in when we introduce new things. Data product is a new concept, and there's another thing called data twins, which I've sort of alluded to previously through simulation. If you go through that journey, it helps with training our people as to how they need to be using this data, because it's clearly aligned to specific use cases. It helps as well in the change management journey, where it's very clear to say, whereas before, this is what we have. Now, this is how we're going to be managing our data linked. Yeah. It's always easier to speak about data in a business context. Therefore, to assess the change impact and making sure that that's mitigated, it becomes it's a difficult job, change management, but it becomes relatively easier to make sure that there's adoption, not only of data, because data doesn't exist in isolation, but of the change that the business through transformation is wanting to achieve. That's another value of good data here. It helps with the adoption of the change that the business is trying to introduce.
Yeah, so we've got, I guess, some really good learning points there for everyone. So there's business, not just business and technology. It's not 2 pillars, it's 3 pillars. So it's so we've got business, technology, and data. Best talking about data in a business context, not leaving it to the technical side of things. So, and then I guess it's a good point to mention to everybody that everything you're talking about, and if you were to work with a business, one of the things you'd be very keen to do as a certified DCAM consultant is to go through that data capability assessment model with a business, and then you'd be able to do that assessment, and you'd be able to tell them where they're up to on that journey and help guide them moving forward. And I know that'll be something that I think will be really useful to probably every business who hasn't already done it. I haven't heard many of you have. And I know you're one of the few people. I think there's only half a dozen people we know who have fully been certified. Slide's one of only a few, it'd be really valuable for a business. That's for sure.
Absolutely, Liam, and you're right. I've seen you mentioning DCAM. That's why I mentioned there's sort of many other modules in place. But yes, I'm DCAM certified, and the 3 pillars that I've mentioned are helping you to assess in terms of your maturity where you are. Data quality is one dimension that needs to be looked at. You then need to be looking operationally to say, do you have an organization from a data management perspective that will make you make sure that you are able to prove things as a concept. You are able to put things in production. There's funding to what you do as part of your data products development. There's funding as far as the data organization is concerned. So it's not a one-off thing that you actually mentioned. It's a continuous thing. Same way as the data integration. It's always a things to learn.
Yeah, but even though it's a continuous thing, so it's a continuous investment. At the same time, a lot of people will be thinking, oh, it's a continuous cost, but actually, when this is an investment, and it's an investment that is almost certainly going to return multiple times over when it comes to profit, because the business can utilize the data in all of the ways that we've discussed today.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that the key one is the one that you can put a price on, which is your organizational reputation as far as data is concerned. And there's ways to be looking at data. You're gonna be on the defensive, where you are required to report by law. You are required to make sure operationally you run your supply chain. But where do you take it next? Right?
Yes.
How do you make sure you take advantage of business AI? How do you make sure that you are able to simulate different scenarios with real data for you to be competitive in the market? How do you make sure that people own and compete to be data owners in your organization?
Yeah, and I think if you have this, like a proper data model, a proper data management system in place, when it comes to the things that are compulsory that you have to report on through data, that's going to be really easy, and it's not going to mean that your company's going to have to spend time on that, and they can just focus on the business side of things. How can we'll quickly send that report off. That keeps the regulatory bodies happy, and we're all like filed and we're legal. But now let's have a look how we can basically get a new product to market. Let's use the data to assess how best to market that, how best to manufacture that. Going to be really, really good for freeing up good people in the business who could be better spending the time on how to make the business more profitable, as opposed to just focusing entirely on the compliance side of things.
Absolutely spot on.
Brilliant. So I think that concludes quite nicely, really. So thank you so much for everyone who's joined, and thank you, Floyd, for joining us today. So, of course, Lisa's shared the forms at the bottom, and if you do want advice on your own data strategy, please get in touch. Myself and Floyd would be really pleased to meet you and help. Floyd, obviously, more from a data standpoint, but then through myself, we can also talk about how teams are best built around people like Floyd, if you are really interested in implementing this or enhancing this, if you've already got something in place. So anyone who's asked any questions, we'll come back to you, and you can, of course, watch this recording back. It'll be produced in Network Plus in the next sort of 24 hours. And I think that's everything. So yeah, thank you so much, Floyd, for joining us. I think we'll leave it there.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.